Alrighty, here we go for episode number 51 of Off the Clock Sports. Brandon Cook here, and Zach Alferman is joining me from down in St. Louis. What's going on, brother? How are you?
Good, you man?
Oh, doing lovely. Although your Blues beat my Maple Leafs last night. What the hell's that about?
It was a good game. It was hard fought, that was for sure.
Yeah, I feel like we're watching two teams that have a lot of championship hopes this year. Obviously, the Blues have their hopes again, and obviously the Leafs building towards what they hope will one day end a 52 or 3 year drought, whatever we're at now. Zach was just showing me his St. Louis Blues Stanley Cup team picture in color, and I had to Google the Maple Leafs in black and white. So that just tells you the difference in the times between the last time those two teams were champions. XFL today, Zach. NHL, some predictions. Talk about the MLB postseason. Where I want to begin today, though, is with the Cleveland Browns and Baker Mayfield. And I'm going to talk about the Washington Redskins here in a few minutes. Watching the game last night, so I got the Dodgers on my TV, got the Yankees on my phone, I got the San Francisco 49ers and the Cleveland Browns on my computer. And I'm kind of going back and forth between the three. I'm trying to watch the Yankees, although they're in the first or second inning. The Washington Nationals were up heavy on the LA Dodgers. So I'm kind of looking at the Browns and the 49ers because the 49ers are a team that, with the New England Patriots, remain undefeated in the NFL. The Cleveland Browns, as you know, lots of Super Bowl hopes this year.
Yeah.
I mean, fifth or sixth best odds, jumping from bottom five a season or two ago. A team that went 0-16 a couple years ago, 1-50 under Hugh Jackson. In comes Freddie Kitchens. In comes Odell Beckham Jr. In comes this, Kareem Hunt's going to join them week 8 after 8-game suspension or week 9, whatever it is. And 2-3 start, 100 passing yards, 2 interceptions for Baker last night. And let me just start with this. A lot of people are really quick, and this happens in sports a lot, as you know, when things aren't going well and, it's kind of a lot of dysfunction in an organization. The first person that 9 times out of 10 gets blamed is the head coach. And a lot of people are going to point to Freddie Kitchens and, his play calling, his game plan, how the team prepares week in and week out. I'm watching that game last night, and I see on Twitter a lot of people tweeting at the Cleveland Browns, fire Freddie, don't let Freddie back in the building, leave him in San Francisco. And I can't help but just, talking to those fans, if I was able to tell those fans one thing, Freddie Kitchens, I actually thought didn't call a terrible game. I won't say it's the best game plan I've ever seen from a head coach, but at the same time, Freddie Kitchens, they called plays where you look down the field and Antonio Callaway, sorry, I was about to say Antonio Brown. Antonio Callaway was wide open a couple times, and Baker overthrew him. Odell Beckham Jr. on the one play separated from Richard Sherman and got open, and he had Richard Sherman beat by a few yards, and Baker Mayfield overthrew him. And Baker Mayfield missed throws. He threw 2 interceptions. I think even Baker would tell you he wants back. But I'm watching that game last night, man, and I can't help but think about Rex Ryan's comments a few weeks ago about Baker being overrated. I'll say this. I think Baker has all the talent in the world to potentially be one of the best quarterbacks in the game. I think that, when Tom Brady and Ben Roethlisberger, Drew Brees and those guys retire, I thought that there was a possibility that, Baker Mayfield could be, among the next wave of top-tier quarterbacks that could help carry this league, kind of along with like a Patrick Mahomes, maybe a Carson Wentz. Deshaun Watson also looks really good through the first few weeks. He looks like the quarterback that the Houston Texans envisioned they were getting when they drafted him 12th overall. I got to tell you, man, I don't want to jump to conclusions and say Baker Mayfield can't play. I don't want to call him a scrub. I've heard some people say he's a scrub, he can't play. I don't necessarily subscribe to that, and I don't think that's accurate. On the other hand, though, I'm starting to lead towards, Rex Ryan and say this guy might not be what we thought he was. This guy might not be the quarterback that the Cleveland Browns thought they were getting, and I can't help but start to think this guy can't win the games that he needs to win. And I know they were on the road last night, and I know the Niners are undefeated, but, he's got to play Russell Wilson this coming week. They don't beat the Seahawks. They get a bye week and, get to reset. And then they're at Gillette Stadium against Tom Brady in his house. I mean, it's not like the game's in Cleveland. They're going to Gillette, and that's a hard place to play. I'm watching this Browns team, and I can't help but think, so I made a list of 5 teams that I think are some of the overhyped teams in the last decade or so. And I think of a team like the Miami Heat when LeBron James, Chris Bosh, and Dwayne Wade joined forces, and basically got embarrassed by the Dallas Mavericks in the NBA Finals. I think of a team like the Toronto Blue Jays in 2013 when they pulled off the blockbuster with the Marlins and the Mets to get Dickey, Reyes, and Burley, and won 74 games. As you recall in 2012, after winning a World Series, Albert Pujols to the Angels, and C.J. Wilson joined him in L.A. and that didn't go well for the Angels, and I think those are contracts that they obviously regretted down the stretch. The Boston Red Sox in 2011 with Adrian Gonzalez and those guys. And, the one that really sticks out to me on top of those teams, the 2012-13 Lakers, when they had Dwight Howard and Steve Nash and Kobe Bryant. And a lot of people are saying this team could, potentially break the Chicago Bulls 72-win season, that they were going to win about 75 games with those three guys, and they had a first-round exit. And I can't help but think, among those 5 teams that I just mentioned, I think if the season keeps going this way, we're going to be allowed to talk about the Cleveland Browns in the same sentence as some of those teams. I mean, Baker Mayfield, like I said, is being talked about as one of the best quarterbacks to carry the next generation of quarterbacks. Like I said, we're talking about OBJ, who it almost seems like he could be this generation's Terrell Owens or Randy Moss.
Yeah.
Nick Chubb, who's no scrub at running back, he can play. Kareem Hunt's going to come back from a suspension. I mean, and Freddie Kitchens. I mean, a lot of people supported that hire. He was their offensive coordinator last season. Baker seemed to thrive under him. He didn't take the head coaching job and run with it. He kind of, we're already talking about Freddie Kitchens, and I don't think last night was his fault. I don't let him completely off the hook. I think Baker Mayfield, misread some routes, overthrew some guys that he needs to hit if he wants to win football games. I'm watching this Browns team, man, and I got to say, I like Baker. I think he's a good player. I'm not sure about the head on his shoulders. I think he needs to, he's tweeting after games at Rex Ryan. He's commenting on Rex Ryan's comments. He's tweeting at Colin Cowherd for being critical. He's responding to analytics people, defending his game, when I'm sitting here going, Baker, you got to stay off social media, man. Like, you got to just focus on your game plan. Mm-hmm. And I can't help but think that this isn't going to go the way the Browns once thought it would. And I'm at a loss for words right now with this Browns team. I did not expect 2-3 through the first 5 games. The schedule gets a little easier for them. They're going to play the Steelers without Ben. They're going to play the Bengals, and they're going to play the Cardinals, who have a fairly young roster. So wins could come, and they've shown some signs of life. They've beaten the Ravens. They beat the Jets, obviously, who are not a standout team this season. It's been a rough start, obviously, with Sam Darnold, but I don't know what you think about the Browns, man, but it doesn't look pretty right now.
Yeah, it really isn't. You look back, this time last year, Freddie Kitchens was the running back coach. I don't think he was expecting to be a, head coach this time this year, but they were really, they were hyped, along with the Bears, which the Bears are a little bit different, but they were really overhyped. They were, they had better Super Bowl, they were more of a favorite to win the Super Bowl than the Patriots. Patriots are undefeated. 49ers are undefeated. Those are 2 good football teams. You gotta look at it. Baker Mayfield's good. He's good. Don't get me wrong, but he's not the number 1 overall pick good. He could be a solid quarterback in this league if he can get off the social media, constantly sit there and, it's not about him. It's about this team. It's a team sport for a reason. There's no I in team, as that famous saying goes. So,
yep.
It's really, I don't know. I really don't know how to, I'm kind of like with you. I'm really kind of like, just shocked by it because, they did, you acquire OBJ, you go out and get Olivier Vernon from the, Giants as well. Both those guys coming over from New York. Like, that was supposed to be like, maybe not a 14-2, 15-1 kind of team, maybe like, a 10-6, 11-5 kind of team. But what they keep playing, man, they might go 8-8 if they're lucky. And that's lucky.
Oh, they could go 8-8. They could go 7-9. They go 6-10. It's been a wild start for the Browns, and I don't like where this team's heading right now because it doesn't seem like they're playing as a group. The defense, they don't have bad players on defense either, especially like a guy like Myles Garrett, who I think could be one of the best defensive players in the NFL.
Oh, exactly.
They just don't see. They seem to be a lot of individuals out there running around, and they don't really seem to be playing as a unit. And that works on Madden in the video game. That don't work on the football field. And Baker Mayfield's in tough. He's lost to Jimmy Garoppolo. He's lost to Marcus Mariota. And now he's got to play Russell Wilson, and then he's going to have a bye week, and then he's going to have to play Tom Brady at Tom Brady's barn at Gillette Stadium in Foxborough. It's a rough start for the Browns, and when I think of moving on from the Browns, when I think of a dysfunctional organizations, I think of the Edmonton Oilers. We're going to stick with football here, but the Edmonton Oilers and, to name one with the best player in the world seem to be a dysfunctional group right now, although I'm willing to give them a hall pass with Ken Holland coming in. A lot of dysfunctional organizations in sports. That's one that stands out to me. Another one that stands out to me along with them would be the Washington Redskins. And I don't really – Dan Snyder's got to be one of the worst owners in sports, man. Eugene Melnick gives him a run for his money with the Ottawa Senators. But Dan Snyder's right up there with Eugene. And, Jay Gruden was fired, 0-5 start. I kind of think a lot of us suspected that was coming. They drafted Dwayne Haskins in the first round, but reports have come out that Jay Gruden did not want that. The front office wanted that. The coaching staff did not want that. And Jay Gruden's fired 0-5. Dwayne Haskins is not going to start at quarterback this week. And let me just say this. I believe if you have a guy, like say New England drafted a quarterback and said, we want this guy to sit behind Tom Brady for a year or two, I have no issue with it. And I would say, look, I encourage that. Learn from Tom. Learn the way he goes about his business. Learn the way he prepares. Same thing with like a Drew Brees. Same thing with like a Ben Roethlisberger. I honestly didn't have an issue when Patrick Mahomes sat behind Alex Smith, because Alex Smith, although he's not in that conversation with those guys, he has leadership qualities, and from what I've read, he prepares and plays like he practices and practices like he plays. Yep. So I had no issue with him learning maybe the locker room side of an Alex Smith. But what good does it do Dwayne Haskins to sit behind Colt McCoy and Case Keenum? I know Case Keenum had an NFC Championship appearance a few years ago against the Eagles, behind maybe one of the best defenses we've seen in the NFL in the last 15, 20 years in the Minnesota Vikings. But, he's sat 5 games already. He's played a little bit. He played week 4. He's sat 4 games, and now they're 0-5. What do you think about maybe putting him in and riding? You got to see what you have, don't you? They struck out on RG3 trading first-round picks. They tried Alex Smith. Kirk Cousins walked away. I don't know why at 0-5 you don't just say, what do we have in this 15th overall pick, and let's play him out for the rest of the season, because maybe we don't see anything we like, and maybe in the offseason, maybe we got to reevaluate the quarterback position once again. And firing Jay Gruden at the same time, just to add to that, does not solve all your problems. There are still a lot of problems in that Washington Redskins organization that need fixing.
Yeah, I completely agree. Dwayne Haskins, I think he's got potential. That's obviously still a long ways away, being with, having a horrible owner, and along with our GM, which I heard today, he never had a press conference. He hasn't had a press conference in like 5 years. So he fired Jay Gruden, which just blows my mind that your GM who runs everything is not talking to the media, not giving out information, not giving fans, the clue. But then, because especially with, that tackle they have, and Trent Richardson, I think is his name. He's just
holding it.
He's not one to play. At this point, can you blame him? I don't think you can.
And there's reports that he is not going to play, that this is probably going to last all season. Where the reports are saying that this is going to be a Le'Veon Bell situation this year for the Redskins.
Yeah, and at this point, you're like, well, hell, I can't blame the guy at all. He obviously wants to win, but he also wants to get paid. But I think more importantly, I think he wants to win games. And being on the Redskins, you're not going to win games, especially if your front office doesn't really seem to care. And if it, reiterating on the Browns, like, this is a team sport. Like, you got to build around the right guys that want to win. And if you're not going to build the right players around, your quarterback, especially, who is the franchise, like, you look at Tom Brady, he's willing to buy in anything you got, but you got to have the players buy into what he's buying into. So if you're not buying into anything, there's really you're not going to win. It doesn't create a successful franchise. And if you look at the last 5 or 6 years since Jay Gruden has taken over, he's only gotten 30 wins. Not good. That's not good at all.
No, it's not. And like I said, if you have those kind of guys that somebody can sit behind and learn from and see what they do day to day to be as successful as they are, then I have no problem with it. But I don't know what you're teaching Dwayne Haskins, sitting him behind a Case Keenum and a Colt McCoy, because let's face it, neither of those guys, and I know Case Keenum's new, and I know he's learning a new offense, and now he's got to learn another new offense going forward with a new head coach. Colt McCoy, I don't really know what you're teaching Dwayne Haskins, unless these guys behind the scenes are good locker room characters, they're leaders, and guys, play for those guys as well. I don't really know what you're teaching a Dwayne Haskins sitting him. At this point in the season especially, maybe I get it for 2 or 3 weeks or a month.
Yeah.
But when you're 0-5, at this point of the season, like if you're in a playoff spot, I would say, well, just roll with what's working, and Dwayne Haskins just gonna have to wait for his opportunity. Kind of like the way Patrick Mahomes just kind of had to wait for his opportunity. The Chiefs went to the playoffs that year. Alex Smith was performing well, played at an MVP level for about half the season, if not a little more. So I had no problem with that. Love Patrick. You just got to wait for your opportunity. But at 0-5, why not turn to the young quarterback that you drafted in the first round? You know, you used a first-round pick when there was a lot of guys that went behind him that you could have also used a first-round pick on. Like, you could have replaced Trent Richardson in the first round because there was a lot of tackles that went in the first round. I mean, you passed on all those guys and team needs to draft this kid. Why not see what you got?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if you're in win now mode, you know, you figure let's complement this team with, you know, players that can help, you know, Dwayne Haskins develop into the right player, you know, to help develop, you know, every player into becoming the better, you know, a better player. I mean, I know things like you said earlier, Jay Gruden didn't want Dwayne Haskins. The front office wanted him. At that point, you should, if you're refusing to not, you know, if your head coach doesn't want a player that you're wanting to draft, then what's the point of having him? If you don't want, especially your friend, not just a player, but a franchise-changing player who could be, you know, Dwayne Haskins. I mean, 5 or 10 years down the road now, we might not even be talking about this. Like, you know, he could be that game-changing guy that, who this is all, you know, a moot point this time. But right now, it's kind of like, I mean, where do they go? I mean, you're literally, I mean, Colt McCoy and Case Keenum are not going to, you know, I mean, they could probably help in some way. Like, hey, I've been around the league. I know what it takes. You know, especially Case Keenum. He's got, you know, he had that really good year. Like, hey, I know what it takes to be a winning quarterback. You know, yeah, it's only 1 year, but let me help you. You know, get some of those traits. You know, help you become a leader. Help you become a captain. You know, help you with this team and make you as best as possible. At this point, I mean, you can't really expect it because there's just not much you can do.
Well, it'll be interesting to see what they do, man. They got, I mean, it's a very dysfunctional organization. It has been ever since Snyder bought the team. And I'm just looking at the other 3 teams in the division, like the Giants, the Cowboys, the Eagles. They all seem to have their franchise quarterback, and they're rolling with it. I mean, the Giants just basically said to Eli, look, man, they basically said we're done. You know, thank you for everything you've done. But this is Daniel Jones' team now. We took him 6th overall. We got to show the fans what we got in this kid. And, I mean, he was sitting behind a guy who is very well respected in this league in Eli Manning. And, I mean, the Cowboys moved off Tony Romo, even though Jerry Jones loved Tony Romo. And, you know, then the Eagles obviously went to Carson Wentz right away after they drafted him. They traded Sam Bradford out of town. I mean, I think the Redskins got to start taking after their division rivals, even though they might not want to. But that's just – I mean, we'll see what they do long term. Dwayne Haskins was obviously a first-round pick. He deserved to be a first-round pick. He's a good quarterback. I mean, it'll be interesting to see what the Cleveland Browns do after a fairly rough start to their season after high expectations. But we got the XFL to talk about. We got the MLB. We got the NHL. Why don't we go to the XFL, Zach? Because St. Louis has obviously been named one of the cities that will host an XFL team in the new year. Kickoff's going to be in February, about a week or 2 after the Super Bowl. Some draft information's come out. Do you want to tell us what you know about the draft? And I guess we got some season tickets available as well for the XFL in the 8 cities.
Yeah, so how the draft, it's going to take place next week, the 15th and 16th. And it's kind of the draft's a little bit different. Obviously, it's, you know, a whole new league. So they're kind of, you know, figuring how they're going to get players into the league. It's kind of, they have like, I think it's 6 different phases. It goes you have a skill phase. You have the O-line phase, the defensive front phase, the DB phase, and then open phase, which counts, I think, as 3 phases of what I was reading earlier. And in all, I think 6 or 7 different phases, all the picks are different. So there's not one team getting the first pick every single round. So it evens it out. It makes, you know, things a little bit easier for teams. It keeps it fair, keeps everything competitive. But yeah, that takes place next week. And I think all the signing, like if no teams, you know, decide that, you know, they want to pass on some players, because I don't think you have to fill your whole roster through the draft. They can also sign players too, like through the NFL who didn't want to, you know, play or anything like that. So it's going to be interesting next week. I don't know how long this draft's going to take. Obviously, we know 2 days how it's going to work. If it's just like 7 or 8, because it's only, you know, 8 teams. How's it, you know, is it like you just kind of switch it back? I mean, who knows? We're going to kind of wait and see, but it's kind of interesting. And then in terms of season tickets, yeah, I seen today they tweeted the Battlehawks, at least here in St. Louis, tweeted out that I think it's like 10. It's anywhere from 10 to I think 90 or 20 to $90 per ticket for a single game. So it's not really that expensive to get into there. And then that dome holds about 30 to 40,000 people, so they can definitely pack that. And in terms of season tickets, it's around the same thing. It's like $20 to $90 a game. So you think $50 or 5 games, $20, $100, $450. Still not too bad. I think that's definitely affordable. It's going to be interesting. I mean, obviously the marketing has gone well so far, at least in terms of me, because it's kept me interested, and I know it's kept you interested because obviously we like talking about this. But I think now their big step is getting the players. I mean, obviously they had the players, but it's getting players that are entertaining to watch.
Yeah, so it looks like, like you said, just to echo a couple things you said, it 20 to $90 seems very affordable, especially if you want to take a family of like 4 or 5. If you want to buy the $20 tickets, I mean, it's $100 to go see a football game if you have a family of 5. I mean, I don't want to say that's cheap, but a lot better than, say, an NFL game. A lot cheaper and a lot more affordable than, say, NFL or NHL or MLB. And I mean, it sounds like it's going to be a fairly competitive sport. So it looks like kind of the way like a fantasy draft would work in a lot of cases. So if you have the last pick in the first round, you're going to have the first pick in the second round. So basically, whoever gets the 8th overall pick and picks last in the first round, they're going to be right back on the clock immediately after selecting that player, and they're going to get the 8th and 9th overall pick. So that means when you have the first overall pick, that's great. You're going to get the best player or the player that you really want. But then you got to sit and wait, and you're the back end of the second round. But then that means you would get to draft first in the third round. Do you suspect Landry Jones to be the first overall pick to the team who gets it, because he was the first XFL player signed? He played in the NFL. Do you expect that he will be the first overall pick in the draft next week, or do you maybe think it might go, maybe a team that gets the first overall picks? We're still waiting for the draft order. We don't know who's selecting where. Do you think maybe there's a chance a team maybe takes a hometown kid to keep a lot of people within the city of that team interested? Like say the DC Defenders get the first overall pick. Could they select a player from Washington or within the area, or Seattle or LA or whoever may get the first overall pick?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. I think Landry Jones is the first quarterback taken. Now, the first player, I'm not too sure. I didn't get to see. I mean, I haven't got to see a lot of this, like, who's like the best player on the board. I know they're kind of releasing, players as they go, so it's kind of a wait and see thing. But I know that they have a wide receiver that went to college here at Air Force, and I know he's pretty hyped up in this draft. I think they're talking like a top pick, and I think the skill position, wherever they're having, him be held. So I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think Landry Jones is definitely the first quarterback off. Him or Connor Cook, I guess I should say. But I think those are going to be the first 2 quarterbacks off the board. Those are the only 2 big names I've seen so far that have, NFL experience and have played in the NFL. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting. I'm really excited to see this draft. I think it's good. I think it's going to bring a lot of, people, a lot of people are going to watch this because, it's a new league. It's going to, everyone's starting from scratch. No one's the best team. You got to go out and prove it. And I think that's what's going to bring a lot of people watching this, especially, with the way they're the way they're marketing this. It's going to be a very competitive league. There's no one good team, no one bad team. So I'm pretty pumped to see how it goes.
Yeah, and I think you're going to get a lot of fans interested, because even though you're selling to the fans the competition and the players, you can also, say the team that draws the 8th overall pick. I mean, it's not like you're selecting last every round. I mean, you're going to get to draft back-to-back really good players. So you might be able to draft your number 1 quarterback and your number 1 receiver, or maybe you get to go quarterback and then, select your best defensive player, and those could be your 2 captains or your 2 best players on offense and defense. And I think they've set it up really fair. It's going to be interesting to see how the salaries go in this league, I think. I think it's going to be interesting to see what Vince McMahon pays the players. I doubt you're going to see anything like NFL contracts for a very long time, if ever. I'm thinking you're probably going the more CFL route where, there's maybe you get $2 or $3 million in cap space and you dish it out amongst your players. I don't know if it'll be like the system where, quarterbacks are the highest paid players and, kind of go down the list from there. But yeah, like you said, I think we're looking at, quarterbacks, receivers, and tight ends and running backs going pretty early, defensive linemen and secondary as well. And then, kickers and special teams later. And then I think after, like the first 10 rounds or so, then you just kind of start filling out your team needs after that.
Yeah. I think that's how it goes. Because it goes from like a skill phase, your offensive line phase, your defensive front phase, and your D-back phase. And I think after that, it's just fill your squad up, see what you need, where you want to go. Because obviously that's really where I think the most important of this is going to happen, is where each team fills in, because depth, because this is going to be a lot more hard. I think more hard hitting than the NFL. So it's going to be more contact, way more contacts to be, drawn out through this league. I mean, you look at what the AAF did, before obviously they folded. They were hard hitting, but I mean, they brought the entertainment. Obviously, things didn't work out there, but this is a whole different league. But I mean, I feel like if you have the most depth in your team, if you feel like you can, because everyone's on the same grid. No one's better than anyone else. I mean, you got a fair chance here. You got yourself, to prove yourself to not only the XFL but the NFL. Kind of just give yourself a chance. And I think each team, it's really important. They got to draft who they want to draft, and how they're going to draft too is really, like I said, really important. It's going to help them out, and it's just big. It's going to be huge, and I think especially, like I said, the depth, that's the biggest factor.
And I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, there's a 71-player roster.
I believe so. I think that's what I said.
That's a lot of players. There's going to be a lot of opportunities then for guys, especially, if this league succeeds, which I believe it will. Like I said, I think Vince, social media, and the cities that the teams are in are really going to help them. I think those are my 3 reasons why I believe it's going to succeed this time around. I think Vince has a lot more working in his favor than he did last time. Mm-hmm. It's going to be really interesting to see, though, and I think the 71-player roster to the NFL is 53. That's going to create, 18 extra jobs on 8 different teams. So that's going to give players who maybe didn't crack a practice squad in the NFL an opportunity to come over to the XFL and reprove themselves in that league. I actually think it's going to succeed, and I think a lot of guys are going to be interested because a lot of guys are going to want to, like I said, reprove themselves. Say if an NFL team doesn't come calling, they can come to the XFL, show that they can still play football, show that they're still worthy of an opportunity maybe in the NFL. And I think that could be good and bad for the XFL. I think it'll be good in a sense of like guys are going to want to play in the league, but I also think it could be bad that when a guy plays at his full potential and shows, how his skills and how good he is, that maybe the NFL comes calling and takes that player away. But yeah, I think Vince and Oliver Luck are going to be really successful this time around.
And especially, I think money terms in terms of contracts and stuff. I think that could really be a big factor too. I mean, obviously, as you said, because they're not going to make NFL kind of money, especially probably the first for a long time. But I mean, the contracts are a huge thing, so I think it's kind of a if you're paying them solid enough money where they're they feel hey, I'm not good enough for the NFL, but I'm good enough for this league, and I'm dominating this league. Like, hey, if I'm getting paid, like this is your opportunity. I think the money's there because obviously Vince McMahon owns the WWE, and that's who knows. I don't even however much money that makes. Now he's got this. This thing develops and makes money. This is very successful, and this is where the chance a lot of guys can get paid.
Yeah, and the TV deals with Fox and ESPN, NBC huge. And all them, that's going to be big as well. Seems to be doing really well for the WWE only a week or 2 in, the deal with Fox. So, I mean, the relationship with Fox is already booming, and I think ESPN and all those networks are going to really help them as well. So, moving on to the MLB, Zach, we had a sweep last night. The New York Yankees have sent the Minnesota Twins home in 3 games. You and Troy were awfully generous to the Minnesota Twins in that series, giving them 5 games. I gave them 4. It went 3. The Yankees swept them. I think the Twins were screwed when they jumped on their plane to New York City, personally. Seeing how that series played out. The Dodgers and the Nationals are going to a 5th game. And Yadier Molina, your boy, you guys love him down in St. Louis. He hits a walk-off sac fly last night, and he sends the series back to Atlanta for a Game 5, a winner-takes-all Game 5. Zach Greinke was lit up yesterday by the Tampa Bay Rays, which could have also been a sweep. Let me ask you this. I firmly believe, watching yesterday's, the way yesterday played out, the Yankees sweep, they get to go home. The Houston Astros have to stay in Tampa Bay and fight to eliminate the Rays tonight, and if they cannot do so, they have to go back to Houston to play them in a Game 5. Justin Verlander is pitching on short rest today. Do you think the way this played out yesterday in the American League, that the series is now, regardless of who they play, now the AL goes through New York? Because after the trade deadline, I thought before the trade deadline the AL went through New York. When the Astros got Zach Greinke, I changed my mind. I was like, the AL goes through Houston now. Like, they're loaded. They got World Series experience. And not that the Yankees don't, but none of these players really do. I mean, they're a fairly young group and have a lot of turnover. The Astros have that experience. And, I mean, the Yankees basically get to go home and rest now, and they get to basically plan this out the way they want to. They get to set up their rotation the way they want. They get to rest guys the way they want. As for Houston, now has to throw Justin Verlander on the mound tonight on short rest. And if they can't win tonight, now they're going to maybe have to go to Garrett Cole or use Zach Greinke again to get by the Rays and avoid a collapse of a 2-0 lead to get swept 3-2. I mean, do you think this now puts the favorites back on the Yankees, or do you think that that's kind of irrelevant right now? We just got to see how this plays out.
Yeah, I still think it's not irrelevant, but I think it's very important what happens in today's game with the Astros and Rays. If the Astros win it tonight, I think they're still favorites because you got Garrett Cole. Then obviously, whoever's behind Garrett Cole, obviously we know Zach Greinke's there, but whoever their fourth pitcher is, I really haven't been paying too much attention. But I think if they can get out today, they get that, just win this game 4. I feel like they're still favorites to win it. Going through, getting through it, but because they obviously they have the pitching. I mean, that pitching is unreal. I mean, those three. I mean, Zach Greinke had a bad game yesterday. We all know that, but I feel like I still think he's still good enough that he can get it done in the postseason. I don't think that scares him away. Especially if he goes home and pitches. He was really good in Houston when he was pitching, so obviously he can pitch at home. I never really got to see his away stats, but when he was at home in Houston, he was a lot better than on the road, from what I gathered. But I feel like. I mean, if the Rays do force a game 5, I feel like then it's in the Yankees. It's theirs to lose, because obviously, I mean that you have all this rest versus what the Astros are getting, and then their top 2 pitchers won't be starting at least the first 2-3 games, however long it may be. So you kind of gotta hope, and if you're the Yankees, you kind of hope it goes 5 games, whether or not you get the Rays or Astros at this point, but. Because you got the rest, you're sitting at home, you sweep the Twins. That's a big deal, but also that could lead to some rust. You've seen the postseason where teams have dominated that first round or to go to that second round, and they're sitting there. They think they're feeling good, and they get they look bad the next round. So you never know. I mean, I feel like it's still even. I feel like the Astros still have that advantage, especially if they do win today. Now, obviously, they go in and play Thursday. It's a whole different ball game, but it's just kind of wait. I still think Houston has the advantage.
Yeah, I mean they're a loaded team, Houston. Like I said, they're 2 years away. A lot of those guys were all on the World Series team. I mean, with the exception of Zach Greinke. I mean, a lot of those guys were on that team a few years ago. Roberto Osuna is a great closer as well. Obviously, Aaron Sanchez was shut down for the year, but I mean, Houston's still a loaded roster with experience. The Yankees are a young juggernaut, and they got a lot of young players, like the young core of like Torres, Judge, and Gary Sanchez. Giancarlo Stanton's an established veteran, Aaron Hicks as well. They got a good team. They're well coached with Aaron Boone. I did not support the decision to fire Joe Girardi a couple years ago. I do now because I really believe in Aaron Boone and his leadership to lead that team. I think if the Astros want to remain the favorite, though, man, I think they got to win tonight. Like I don't think this series. I don't think this series can go back to Houston and have Tampa Bay and the Astros play a winner takes all game 5. I agree with what you said, though, about the Yankees. I mean, if they have a full week off, I mean, that could lead to some rust. But I really believe they're going to be prepared to play whoever they play because they're not – I don't think they're scared of the Astros. The Astros are not scared of the Yankees. And, I mean, Tampa Bay, man, they just keep fighting. I mean, if they're able to come back and win this series, I think that's going to put a lot of confidence in that room. And, I mean, the American League could be wide open right now. I mean, with the Twins gone and the A's gone, there's a lot to like. And Zach Greinke got lit up yesterday for, what was it, 6 runs? And Zach Greinke,
6 or 7.
Zach Greinke at $31.5 million made more than the entire Tampa Bay lineup yesterday. The entire Tampa Bay lineup was about $23 million. And the Zach Greinke pitching to them was $31.5, and they lit him up yesterday.
Jeez, man. It's crazy to think that, like that little being paid to that team blew up, a $31.5 million kind of pitcher. It's still crazy, but I still have a lot of confidence in Zach Greinke. I still feel like he can pitch. He's obviously, I feel like maybe he wasn't obviously undervaluing that team because you look at his interview. It was a very short and sweet interview, press conference. But like he said, you can't take this team lightly. And obviously yesterday they proved why you can't take them lightly because I mean they're down, but they are not out. It's really important if Houston wins tonight. I think they're okay. I still think they still have the favorites to obviously not only win the AL pennant, but also winning the World Series. I think that's really important. Now, and I also want to scooch over to, I know they were talking about, being on rest with the Yankees. That's like we said, it's huge. It's a lot of, just keeping yourself loose, obviously being ready, going, maybe even throwing a simulated game here, there. Kind of just keeping the pitchers, especially those pitchers, ready to go, and maybe the bats. Because I mean, the bats looked good that whole series. I mean, they were scoring what I think they averaged 9 runs a game.
Oh yeah.
In that span.
That's a solid lineup. There's no weakness in that lineup 1 to 9.
Yeah, I feel like you shouldn't be worried about that. Obviously, the bullpen, they're really legit, but we got to be careful with that starting pitching, especially with Severino. You know, he's just came back 2 months ago, if that. I mean, that's a lot of, if he sits there, that's rust sitting there, and that could grow on him, and that's especially on that shoulder when he had injury problems with it too.
Yeah, I thought Aaron Boone played the rotation perfectly. I mean, he got solid starting pitching. He got
Mm-hmm.
solid offense. I mean, that was just a one-sided series. Like I said, I think the Twins were toast the minute they got to New York City, man. That Yankees team was so ready, so prepared. They were probably the most prepared team in the postseason so far. And I mean, I know that's
Yeah,
easy to say because they swept their opponent, but I just like top to bottom, like just so prepared, so ready to play. Never really got lost in the moment. Just scoring runs, getting the